Welcome to We Have a Spiritual Problem, a podcast where we confront the deeper questions beneath our personal struggles and collective crises. I am your host, Dr. Jeff Armstrong. I am not a theologian or a philosopher, or at least by training. I am a PhD exercise physiologist with a deep curiosity about the sacred, especially at the intersection of the physical and the spiritual. In this episode, I return to an interview with Daniel A. Miller, best-selling author and entrepreneur, that aired on the Aging Well podcast earlier this year. At 82 years young, Daniel is thriving in every sense of the word. His book, The Way of the Wave, Nature's Model for Navigating Life's Currents, offers a powerful message that life isn't about clinging to control, but about learning to ride life's natural rhythms with acceptance, presence, and trust. Drawing inspiration from the flow of nature, Daniel shares how letting go of expectations, attachments, and the illusion of control can help us to become more resilient, deepen our relationships, and live with greater peace and purpose in life. In the Christian tradition, self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. Our need and inability to have control in our life and in our relationships is a spiritual problem. What inspired you to write The Way of the Wave, and how does this differ from your earlier work? Because I know you've written a couple other books as well.
Yeah, I would say it's more an expansion of what I've written about in Losing Control, Finding Serenity, and the Gifts of Acceptance. It's a different kind of book in the sense that there's short chapters with mainly some of my stories and some of my family stories that they gave me permission to include. That was very important. And it's my hope. It's more of an interactive book. As you know, at the end I have inquiries and reflections. So my hope is mainly the things I've struggled with, which I call, the obstructors to riding the wave. I'm hope by highlighting those and talking about those through these questions is the reader maybe and examine their own lives and see how much of it applies to them and maybe what they can do to improve their lives. For example, like one of my biggest challenges is overcoming my propensity to judge. I call myself a former controller, but I still judge too much. And the main difference, I'm much more aware of it. And I know it's not good for me because, when I'm judging, I'm focusing on someone else, not me, right? And so I examine, why do I judge so much, and why do I expect so much? So these are the things I get into. I don't come to definitive answers sometimes. It's as much as raising the questions and becoming aware of these propensities. And because those are the things, when we talk about, the idea of going with the flow, yeah, that's great. It feels good, but how do you do it? It's more like, or how do you stay on it? If you're in the zone, how do you stay on the zone for, let's say, a little longer time rather than sort of falling off? And this book identifies those so-called obstacles that remove us from the natural flow of life. And then I try to highlight those, what I call wave enhancers, that enhance the flow, that maintain the flow. And main ones being trust and acceptance.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the kind of the organization of the book, the kind of sound cliche, the flow of the book.
Thank you.
But one of the key ideas of the book is letting go of control, which I think most of us probably have a lot of problems with that. I know I do personally. Why is it especially important as we grow older?
Why is it what? I'm sorry.
Especially important to kind of let go of control as we get older.
Oh, okay. Well, let me start with this. I think controllers, or when we have a propensity to control, I'll speak for myself, is you feel insecure when you're not controlling. There's an underlying fear or discomfort. And I remember reading Alan Watts many years ago. He expresses it a little differently. It's like when we seek security, we become more insecure. So when we try to control or get control, I feel we're more out of control. Our lives can get out of control. And what happened with me, it just disconnected close bonds, especially with my son and friends. You can't. It's difficult to have intimacy when you're too controlling. So there's that loss of bonding, connection, allowing people to open up to us, and so. But in terms of the way I speak of it, is we restrict our life currents. That's why I talk about and write about what I call limited thinking. It's sort of like, to me, limited thinking is sort of a control device where we're refusing to let go of our hardcore beliefs or ways of doing things. The status quo is somehow too important to us, or we're fearful of changing the status quo. So in many ways, I look at it as when we are able to give up or let go of some control, it frees these life currents. And then once we have them going, is accepting is what allows us to align with the ones, meaning to choose the ones that are best for us. So that's why the two main concepts, I think, behind all my books is this idea of letting go of control and then accepting the what is. And when I come to the acceptance, is the phrase I like to use is when you accept what is, you can discover what might be. And that applies so much in my life. When we accept our limitations, we can focus on the things that we can still do, the choices we still can make, especially as we get older.
So you use nature as a model, and throughout the book, you share a lot of personal experience. Do you have any particular story, personal experience where nature taught you a life lesson about acceptance or resilience?
I would say that the main one, as I mentioned when I was at the beach. But there are other times where I'll be maybe hiking in a nature area, the solitude of it, the peacefulness of it. It allows me to, I like to use the word, to get in touch more with my soul center, so to speak, to be more grounded. And then let me give you an example. Every day, my morning starts like this. I'm out of bed and I say the Serenity Prayer on my knees. The Serenity Prayer is my guide to life and my guide to acceptance. After doing my exercises on the floor that I mentioned, I go outside and I have this beautiful, beautiful olive tree. And I have a beautiful yard, but the olive tree. And I will raise my hands and look at the olive tree and just, ask for acceptance and guidance, to be receptive to what may come my way. Or if I'll give you really a prime example, I guess, is with my book. The other two books were successful from the point of view of not only getting some awards, but sold quite a few copies. I'm not so sure that's going to happen with this book, but may or may not. But I've moderated my expectations. But I go out with my olive tree is like, just allow me to be receptive to where this leads me, And this book so far has led me to some really great stories and podcasts like we're having right now. I had one with tennis and how tennis relates to life. I had one with a father on parenting. And so, I don't know, I just sort of feel that when I'm in nature, it just opens up all these things for me.
Yeah, I found myself just every chapter of the book hitting me in a different way, and I'm like, another wake-up moment. And even I think it was earlier this week, my son obviously, thankfully, emptied the dishwasher. But we have a lot of these Fiesta-ware dishes that my wife has collected over the years, and Fiesta-ware is kind of a family tradition kind of thing because my dad's from the area of southeastern Ohio where those were produced, and they're all different colors. But I'm a little bit OCD, and everything's got to kind of be stacked in order. You don't mix up the colors, and everything was just out of order. And I'm like, okay, just go with the waves here. Just let it go. And I left it as it was. And that was a hard thing for me to do. But
It can be. It can be really hard.
and I think chapter 5, and you kind of alluded to this chapter already for yourself, so I'm glad I'm not the only one that probably benefited from this. But I felt like, did you write this chapter knowing that I was going to be interviewing you? Because chapter 5 is judging other riders. And for someone who is used to planning and controlling outcomes, what's a good step forward in terms of practicing this wave-inspired mindset?
Yeah, I think well, the process I went through is what's behind that? What's my motive for wanting to judge someone else's choices or the way they are, And I had to examine that, and I couldn't come up with in a way a good reason. Maybe is it my ego? Is that it makes me somehow feel better than the other? And as I mentioned in the book, maybe for a few seconds, but that's not really what it is. So what is it that propels me to do that? And I have to be truthful. I don't have the real answer yet. But what I do have much better is I am so much aware when I'm doing it, because if I'm judging, especially people close to me, my family, my children, who wants to be judged? I don't want to be judged. If I feel someone's judging me, that's going to turn me off. I'm not going to want to open up to them. I'm not going to want to share my thoughts and feelings with them. Right? So I know it's, and by the way, when I say judging, I'm not talking about assessing situations. Could be danger, harm, or things that aren't good for us. That's something else. I'm talking about the more personal types of judgments. And those are the ones that I try to focus on. It's there. It's something I'm getting better at. I don't think it's going to leave me. But it's going to get better. And a lot of these things, talking about expectations or my limited thinking, it's a matter of mitigating them, quite honestly, reducing them. And the more I feel I have stronger relationships with my friends because let's put it this way. When we can practice acceptance, there's no need to judge. Right? If you're judging, you're not accepting. If you're judging, you're controlling. So it's really I think it can be very detrimental to us, and certainly it's what takes us off the flow. Because I had a friend and I was discussing it with, and she shared, when I feel I'm judging someone, I think, what's going on with me? It's usually something going on with me that's causing that. So then I can maybe take a few moments and take a look what's going on with me.
Yeah, that's why I really appreciate the way the book is structured in the way that we could almost take each chapter as just maybe a daily read and take those questions or take it on a weekly basis and just go through the questions that you have, the individual ask themselves at the end of each chapter and just use that as almost a meditative practice and part of that, what I consider more of a growth mindset where you're looking on a daily basis. What can I do better? I have a phrase I use kind of in my own journaling and blogging and everything where my saying is, be your best today, be better tomorrow. Yes. And, you don't present in the book that you have all the answers. It's, you have all the struggles, and these struggles have led you to finding a better pathway, riding the wave and finding a way to navigate some of the challenges that we face in life. And so how does riding the wave help us to navigate some of our major life transitions like retirement, health changes, loss, those types of things? Sure.
My mom lived 101. Wow. She died about 10 days ago.
Oh, sorry for your loss.
The last 7 or 8 years, 9 years of her life, she was riding the wave. I mean, I saw it, I witnessed it, I experienced it. It was an amazing change that I hadn't, growing up, saw that part of her, And she had a stroke when she was 89. she faced it, she dealt with it, went through physical therapy, and then, with time you start losing certainly your physical limitations. But she was so much in acceptance, and she enjoyed, up until maybe the last year, she truly enjoyed. She was in assisted living, but she enjoyed playing bingo. She was in doing the arts and still painting, and she was in her own way really just going with the wave. So for me is going with the wave today, in addition to the acceptance, is trusting. I'm trusting the currents, and I'm trust that things may not be like I want them to be. They may not turn out the way I might want them to be, but that however they turn out, I trust that I'm going to be okay, that I will have some choices, or I can find a way to deal with whatever the issues. That really helps a lot. That makes me sort of like, I want to say, more even-keeled. Things are not going to impact me. Negative things are not going to impact me that strongly. Or if they do, it won't be for as long, and I can recover. And I look back at my own life and what I've gone through, and what I've overcome, and I'm still here, and I feel I'm here better, more fuller, so to speak, than ever. So to me, that's sort of what the wave is. Like I talk about the ocean, you have the crests and the swells, but you also have the riptides, and nature has the storms and hurricanes and this and that. So nature's not all, positive, so to speak. Just like life, we have the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. And so it's sort of going with wave to me is to sort of, in a way, maximize those good times or highs, and to reduce the impact of the lows, right? Through trust. And when I say lows, that brings up another one. The other, I can't pronounce it well, but I'll spell it. Lulls, lows. When we have lows in our life, and I don't know if you've experienced those. I think a lot of people have. I know I have. And that could get you down if you let it get you down. But what I've come to learn is I trust and know that's just part of life. That's a normal part of life to have lows. And I've talked to people, I have friends, and one good friend about a year ago, he had just retired. He had been very active in his career, and he was like reassessing his life, or what's he going to do now, so to speak. And you could tell he was not struggling, but very pensive. And I said, Stan, you're just having a low. And he said, yeah, that's what it is. And it seemed to sort of take that pressure off, because for me, the struggle I had with lows is the feeling, well, I'm not being productive, And is it okay not to be productive? Yes, it is at times. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's interesting how we kind of put a lot of this stuff into our own perspectives. Like for myself, being an exercise physiologist, I think the more physiological kind of aspects of the ups and downs and whatnot. And I had a friend recently really gave me a nice analogy that I guess her mother had told her. It's like you can't live at the top of the ECG, which means, if you're trying to live at the top of the ECG, you're flatlining, which means you're dead, right? Okay. And we need those ups and downs, because the ebbs and flows of life are really what stimulate growth. I mean, for me as a physiologist, you don't have true homeostasis. You always have ups and then downs, which cause us to correct, and that's what helps us to kind of stimulate growth. Mm-hmm. And part of this process, you talk a lot in the book about the role of self-compassion in the process. How does this support the journey of aging well?
Yeah, to me, you say self-compassion?
Yeah, your self-compassion.
Yeah. It's, for me, it's taking care of myself, because I had a history of self-neglect, I was younger, and that resulted in ultimately one time losing half my nose, because I thought I didn't have time to go to doctor appointments. And so I've gone from self-neglect to practicing self-care. And that is compassion for me. That's acknowledging myself, and or we could say my own self-acceptance. And the compassion, not only for myself, but having compassion for others, my friends. So in recent years, as I mentioned, last year I lost two very, very close friends. And but what I was able to do was to be of service to them during those times. One person in particular, I went to every doctor's appointment with him, and we became closer. We bonded even closer as we were able to share even more intimate things about our lives. And I just remember I gave him a copy of the preliminary copy of the book during this time, and he says, "Is that story about me?" Because I changed. No, I mentioned a story that I had with a friend. I didn't say that. I'd never say the name of the friend, but it was a story about me and him about 20 years ago. And I said, "Yeah, it was." And then we were able to talk about that thing that happened in the past that separated us for a little bit. So the compassion is, if I'm more compassionate to myself, I feel I'm more compassionate and can have more empathy for others. So, yeah, it is. I agree. I never thought of it in terms of self-compassion, but I think it is if I'm doing things, especially the trust and the acceptance, and humility to me is another very large, what I call enhancer, is that part of me that I'm open to other ideas and not feeling that part of me that I really know what's best for others or what they should do. And that's proven so much with my children, because I truly don't. They know more than I do many times. Anyway, that's sort of I didn't mean such a long answer to that question.
That's okay. We like the long answers on this podcast because that's where we really dive in deep. And just talking about self-compassion, just the word vulnerability kept popping into my head as well. And I think we need to, in order to be vulnerable, we have to have a certain level of self-compassion. We have to forgive ourselves to be able to open up and be able to work on strengthening those relationships. And you write a lot about how letting go can strengthen our relationships. And you have a lot of great examples in the book. What are some common control patterns we might not even realize we're holding on to?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jeff, because when I wrote Losing Control, Finding Serenity, I really tried to delve into, I knew I was controlling, in fact, I even put a little love control test in that book, because a lot of times we're controlling in our love relationships. But, I feel if I'm offering my opinion more than once, I'm trying to maybe change someone. So that's controlling, right? If I'm resisting, if I'm pressuring, obviously that's controlling. But there could be subtle ones. I may firm my face or sneer. There can be some physical things that are in a way controlling. We can be cajoling or charming to get our way, and that can be controlling. It's just amazing. Judging is control. There's so many ways we're control, and it's these sort of more subtle ones that we're not aware of. And so in pretty much all my books, and this one too, is go through, try to identify, to try to become aware of those patterns. And one is definitely when I'm dealing with someone and I'm getting some kind of resistance, or worst case of being dismissed, especially by my son, is I say, okay, I'm overreaching. I'm probably overreaching here, and I'm getting into that control pattern. So that's one way. And then, quite honestly, I talk to my friends. How, do you find me controlling? In which way? How? So all those different ways. The self-reflection, seeing how people respond to me. There's usually control involved in there. And so it's a matter of just sort of easing up, letting it go. And so much with my children in particularly is when I'm not controlling and when I could just listen, and I do write a lot about that, is about this attentive listening. If I can listen, and even though I may have the urge to give advice or counsel, I used to do it. And at times I still do it, and all to very bad results, very poor results. So my goal is I will listen. And if I'm not sure that they're asking something from me, and I'll say to my daughters, "Sweetie, are you asking my thoughts on this?" And they'll let me know. I had a story not long ago. We had a sort of family birthday. I have two daughters, and my youngest daughter was struggling at work, a little bit underpaid, overworked, and my eldest daughter was asking questions of her, and I didn't like the answer that one of my youngest daughters gave, and I just jumped into that conversation, and it was dead silence at the table. It just quelled a nice evening. I realized it right away. I called her the next morning and apologized, I'm sorry. And then about a week later, my wife were in the car driving, and my youngest daughter calls again and is talking about, again, another issue she was having with her boss at work. And I'm just listening and listening. And I said, "Sweetie," again, I asked, are you looking for my opinion on that? She said, "No, I feel better now. I just wanted to talk about it." And that's so often true, is that I think sometimes people need just to let it out and to have a receptive ear, and that can be very healing. It really can open up a much deeper bond with the person.
Yeah, that was one of the many examples of your personal experiences that I remember from the book that I thought was really, really good. Makes me kind of reevaluate how I interact with my kids. And I honestly, I really enjoyed the book in terms of, I think it's got stuff that any one of us can learn because we are all controllers. I mean,
how many children?
If you're not a controller, you're in denial. How many children do I have? Two. I have a very strong-willed 16-year-old daughter and a coming up on 20-year-old son.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've screwed them both up. So
yeah,
you give me hope that I can actually redeem those relationships over time. So
I'll never forget when my youngest daughter was 12 years old. I don't remember what the subject was or what we were telling her to do. And she says, "Daddy, I'm 12 years old now." I'm 12 years old. And she's really smart, 12 years old. I mean, she had her own thoughts and own wisdoms, but it was really sort of cute. But and what I don't know if you found, but what I found over time, couple things is my children know much more about me than I think they do. They know about us. They may not, say it in those terms, but they really know us, And sometimes I know I didn't realize. It actually felt good realizing that, But it's, the thing with our children is my mom in her later years, in her 90s, it was really important for her to know how I was doing. Am I okay? So I don't think we ever lose that concern we have, for our children,
Right. So how has your sense of purpose evolved over the years, and how do you continue to stay creatively and spiritually engaged?
Thank you for that question. Spiritually engaged, as I say, I have my morning prayer, especially the acceptance prayer and prayers for guidance, being in nature, mentoring others. There's some people that I mentor. Being very active. Tennis is just sort of my passion. And I'm going to brag here because I'm very proud. I play seniors tennis tournaments, and these are usually former college players, and they go in 5-year increments, the brackets or divisions. And I started playing again in my mid-60s after my oldest daughter started playing tennis. Anyway, to make the story short, this past year I made it to top 10 nationally in doubles. and I'm just not only proud of that, but it is the way I got there, and that's why I really feel it happened about the time I start writing the book about the wave, because I realized that so many things about riding the wave in other parts of my life transition or occur on the courts. I was talking to a fellow tennis player, is that tennis doesn't necessarily create character, but it reveals character. And it's really interesting if you ever played, or it could be in most sports, golf, it really reveals character. But anyway, so that I'm painting later today. I'm going to go out. We have a little place in Malibu that I look at the ocean and the waves and walk on the shores. And I have my easel out there. And, and since I started writing books, my painting's sort of taken a little bit of a back seat. So I'm now getting more into painting. And it's this, that creative aspect is so nourishing to the soul, and a little bit of writing the poetry. As I say, a new thing I'm doing is, and that's what I'm saying, the finding purpose is, I've always been into succulents, and so I have like succulent gardens. Where I'm at right now in our house, we have these palm trees and these big palm fronds. I've taken them and I'll plant succulents in them, And so the little place in Malibu, I guess I'm almost becoming a landscape designer. I don't know. But I created a rock stream, and with succulents planting around it. So I'm really enjoying creating, using the earth and the plants. So that's sort of becoming a new thing. But I try to remain open, curious, and interesting, and things just evolve. Right now I'm involved a little bit with the marketing of the book, and I hope to be speaking on it and carrying the messages that are in the book. But at some time that lull's going to come, I think, and my plan this time is to be know it's normal, and just see. This book started from a lull. Literally, and when I was having a low after the publication of The Gifts of Acceptance, and it did so well, is there was a period that, when you're very active, engaged in something, and you stop doing that so much, there is that open time frame. So I'm not discouraged, because and my wife is so interested in so many things. So. Let me put it this way, Jeff. I never for once thought I would be enjoying my life so much in my 80s. Never. Fortunately, I'm physically fit. I'm healthy. So I know, I say that knowing that I'm not having to deal with the challenges that so many people do, at this age. So I try to remain humble and aware of that and grateful for that, and just continue taking one day at a time.
Yeah, I think one thing that really comes through in reading your book is that you are doing the things that we talk about in terms of aging well and having that balance. I mean, I think part of what I kind of picked up on, you talk about the lulls in the book, and having the balance that you have. I enjoyed when you were talking about was it Joni Mitchell and trying to think of the other singer. You envisioned that they sing while they, or
Tony Bennett.
Was it? Yeah, Tony Bennett. That's right. That they sing while they. No, what was it?
While they're painting.
Yeah, while they're painting, right? And you go back and forth. You paint and then you write, and you have so much balance in your life. You have that kind of physical dimension with doing your tennis and going out and kind of absorbing just the environment of being at the beach, and the writing, the painting, and when the painting isn't going the way you want it to go, you just kind of set it aside, and you might sit on a painting for a year. And I think there's so many messages in there in terms of, how do we allow ourselves to kind of strike this balance by, going, riding the waves in the different components of our life. And if we only are kind of more singularly minded, and I think, you use a lot of business examples in there, and I would imagine when you were most focused on just your business, is when you had some of your greatest struggles.
I did.
Right?
There's no question about it. No question about I didn't have balance. That's why I write about, the importance of self-care. When you're neglecting your life's out of balance. I truly believe that. And I learned that in a way, the hard way. And so the two words that I sort of keep in my mind is the one you mentioned. Balance is very big. The other is I'm going to call moderation. Is you have the extremes both ways. It could be some people. It's like one attribute. If it carried to an extreme, can be sort of a detriment, and that if I'm too giving, let's say, it's good to be giving. If I'm too giving, I may be taking away from the other person. If I'm too fearful, I'm not going to do certain things. But fear, on the other hand, can be helpful in pointing out real risks. So it's trying to find that balance or that moderation. And expectations is a big one for me. And I really moderated and really reduced my expectations with the current book, and with the next big tournament coming up, because I went to the finals of the Nationals last year. So my expectations are naturally a little bit heightened, but and having a tennis podcast the other day, I became aware of that because the podcaster who's a tennis player was saying that these tennis players at the highest level, the pros, when they start doing well, then their expectations increase. So when they have a letdown or a failure, or meaning lose, it can be, take it really seriously, hard hit. And so moderating my expectations, because it's good to have them, but I feel we need to sort of moderate them.
And so the idea of kind of riding the waves, it'd be easy to kind of just perceive that we go about life just willy-nilly, doing whatever comes our way, not having much structure. But I sense that there is a certain amount of structure to your life that, daily habits, weekly habits that, you do to be able to remain vibrant spiritually, physically, and emotionally. So what are some of the things that you do as more regular habits?
I guess the regular habits, other than, the exercise, is... I really enjoy my breakfast. I have a pattern of certain foods I like to eat and look forward to. The obviously, the exercise. I'm still working. So if you call that a habit, it's a structure.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved with real estate heavily. I'm still involved. In fact, I share with people. I don't know if I'm going to ever retire. But I think about that, I'm okay, because even when I write about, and you probably know more about this than me, about creating new brain cells by using our brain, especially in different ways, in new ways, is I think it keeps us more mentally acute and healthy. So that I am structured that way. But within that structure is I allow myself leeway. Okay, at the top of my computer, I have a little stick-em note. It says, "How urgent is it?" ? Because I used to have this huge sense of urgency, when I was younger, especially at work. Everything felt, and if I'm not careful, I can get back into that. So I look at that. How urgent is it? 90% of the time, it's not urgent. It truly is not urgent. I just feel it is. But if I can just become aware, no, it's not that urgent, right? And just trust a little bit, So the structure, my wife and I, we have activities we enjoy doing together, and so there is a certain amount of structure, but I feel it's good. I mean, when I wrote Losing Control, Finding Serenity, but the whole thing about giving up control, one of the questions was raised, what do you just do? Just do a laissez-faire attitude? And not do anything? No, and acceptance, I could be accepting someone, but it doesn't mean it's not a passive state. It's not a total necessarily surrender of things that are important to me. When I'm accepting, I'm looking at the underlying reality of something, and I may not like it, and that doesn't mean I condone it. But if I see it for what it is, I can then look at what my choices can be. I can align then with the currents that are better for me. So I forgot the question again.
That's okay.
That happens in the 80s.
Happens in the 60s too. I think it even happened in the 40s for me as well.
Yeah.
But, so you're still playing tennis competitively. How does staying active contribute to your overall mindset and well-being?
Well, how does it contribute to what?
Your overall mindset and well-being.
Mindset. Okay. So I have an active mind. That's why I was not good at golf. I was too mental. So when I play tennis maybe 3 times a week. I used to play more, but I go to the gym as well. But I've learned that whole other area of accepting my physical limitations as I've aged. But when I'm playing tennis, I'm not only getting the physical workout and the health that comes from that. I'm in a social situation and in a more lighthearted way. With I play mainly at the local park. We have doubles, and so there's camaraderie. There's a lot of things. It's serious tennis, but not serious tennis, and so that sort of lightens my spirit, So if as I say, I'm still working, and there are work issues that come up with some of my properties. I had one that almost burned down last year. So there's these things that come up that I get into that intense focus because I still have that part. And so going and playing tennis maybe in the morning is going to lighten that, right? So, or going to the gym, or maybe even meditating. It gives me again that balance that I need, but in many ways I feel that I'm healthier because I've always been active. Whether I was jogging, was doing yoga, in later years more tennis. So it gives me just a mental well-being as well as physical. So I just feel that's extremely important. I continue to do that and will.
So if you can give one piece of advice to someone in their 60s or 70s that are feeling kind of uncertain about the future, what would it be?
Is to embrace the uncertainty, okay, and to avoid getting into this acronym for fear that I use, future events already ruined, is don't start projecting or being fearful or speculating, because most speculating I find are negative speculations. So embrace it, accept it, the uncertainty. And today, you don't have to be in your 60s to have a lot of uncertainty. What's going on today is embrace it, feel it, accept it as it is, and just lead your life. Do the things that bring you joy. That takes care of you and your loved ones, and that's the best advice I could offer at this point.
So what do you hope for readers and listeners to take away from The Way of the Wave?
Thank you for the question. My hope is that they will take away the things that resonate with them and benefit by some of my own experiences. I like to use the word guidance. It's not necessarily like how-to, but that so they can basically enjoy a fuller, more balanced life, and one with less stress and anxiety. The more I'm on the wave or going with the wave, my life is that way. So my hope is that readers can take parts of it that they resonate with and apply it to their lives, to their benefit. That would be super great.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing to underscore. It's not a how-to book. And we get too many of those self-help books that are do these, bullet points of things. I think you give a avenue for people to be able to be more introspective, evaluate what are they doing in their life, ask themselves the questions that can help them to better ride the waves. Or
Yeah.
I'll use my age well, right?
Yeah.
So, it's a really, I think, a fantastic book for people to read. It's an easy read, and especially, the short chapters, you can crank one of those out in 10, 15 minutes in a day and just read a chapter a day, meditate on it, think on it. How can I improve on this? And I think people can really benefit from that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my intention, to make them short chapters, because attention span with so many things going on today. And I'll mention, I narrated this book, and I'm very proud and pleased. It was a really enjoyable experience because it was so personal. As I narrated it, and the audiobook, it can be purchased through any audiobooks site, including Audible. And I will say that, my website's Daniel A. Miller, where I've written like 150 articles, short articles, again, on the control dynamic, acceptance dynamic, and now a little bit more about the wave. So I invite your viewers to check it out if they like.
Okay, so you get the website. Do you do any social media?
Yes, through my daughter's help. She just put me on Instagram a couple months ago, and I'm letting her do that part. A little bit Facebook. I don't do Twitter. So yeah, I'm not a huge social media person, but that could be age, because I don't know, but. So no, not too much. I'm letting her handle that.
Yeah. So I'm guessing your kids are probably about my age, early 60s, late 50s. So they're not quite that Twitter, Instagram.
My son is 50. My daughter Laura is 36. My daughter Lana is 28. So,
okay. So they are young enough to give you your social media help.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I have, with a 16-year-old daughter, I have somebody that can be definitely critical of what I should be doing for social media and those types of things.
On your podcast. Okay, so you're sort of that situation. I know what you're saying.
I had my kids a little bit later. So it appears you did as well.
I did too.
So you talked about kind of the website where listeners can kind of connect with you, the amount of social media available, but more importantly, where can they find the book?
Sure. Amazon, of course, has all three, Apple iTunes. I have it at Barnes & Noble, and I have it, this time I have on Google Books or Google Play Books. And so any of those sites. And encourage people to, through their local favorite bookstore. We need to encourage that business. So it can be ordered through them as well. So pretty much everywhere.
And hopefully our local libraries are still ordering books as well.
They are at some. My books are at some libraries, and what I've done on the audiobook with the library, I just learned this, that it's very inexpensive for people to check out an audiobook at a library, and I priced the audiobook very low for libraries because I want to encourage people that enjoy their libraries and readers. To have access to my books.
Yeah, I haven't dived into the audio book world quite yet. I know a lot of people really enjoy the audiobooks. I'm still kind of a paper in my hand kind of book.
No, I am too. But audiobooks are really big, the market. More and more people, like they're going on a trip or or driving around, they have that audiobook. So I don't listen to too many myself, but I put it out there for those who do.
Oh, and so what's giving you joy right now? What are you doing?
I am enjoying speaking, my book covers different subjects, of our lives, parenting our children, the aging, sports, work, those things. So I'm speaking mainly to podcasters or radio interviews on those different topics, and I really enjoy that. I'm doing a little writing, mainly on my website, some short blog posts right now, some Q&As that relate to the wave. Probably have about 20 of those coming up. I'm doing like one every week. So I know I want to be still engaged in the writing as well. So right now I'm pretty active And again, this thing about accepting my limitations, what I'm learning, and I learned this probably at least 5 or 6 years ago, is, when I'm especially engaged mentally, whether it's on a podcast or work, is I have less energy over time. I mean, I could be on something for an hour and a half, and I'm tired. And so I've learned to take naps in the afternoon. I could never nap when I was controlling, but I can enjoy a nice little 45-minute hour nap as well. So life is full. Life is full.
And what's your favorite subject to paint?
Well, this is really interesting because I painted a lot of waves and ocean scenes, which I love. I've gotten into abstract painting in the last 5 years. Something I didn't think I could do, and I'm still. I have some of my paintings on the website as well, and I just posted a few of the abstract ones. And what I enjoy about it is I don't know where they're going, And I tell the story that one in the book is one I decided just to engross with the different colors, and not think about it as a subject or topic or a certain intention, and I would turn the canvas sideways and upside so I'm looking at it from different angles, and I keep painting. And then, probably I did this for maybe over 2 days, maybe 3 hours or something. And one time I looked at it, I think the painting's done, because one of the problems I had earlier in painting is I didn't know when to stop, and you got to know when to stop, And so I stopped, and it's probably my favorite painting. It's on my web, and I call it free flow, because this abstract is a little bit, to me, like being on the wave. So I'm doing that now. But I still like ocean scenes, and landscapes. When I was younger, I would do a lot of plein air. I would take my easel and I would go out into the hills or be in nature and paint. And you're outdoors, it's invigorating, you're just feeling the freedom of being outdoors. And really, really enjoyed that as well.
So were you trained at all in painting and writing?
Neither. Maybe writing, but not really trained. That was more legal writing, more that type of business writing. In painting, it's sort of an interesting story. I had collected the works of a friend, an impressionist painter, over the years, and one day when I was at his house studio, he said, "Danny, let's paint." So he sat me down. I was in my mid-40s. He sat me down and set a little still life, a little mirror with some fruit being reflected under that mirror, and we painted. And I was enthralled. It was like, oh my goodness, this is so much fun. And his name is Paul Eventoff. He now has a business called The Wizard of Art, and he is a wizard. And I called him a couple months later. I said, can I have another lesson next week? He said, no, just go paint for 6 months. And I did. And then I called him, then, I don't know, we talked about, I don't think he even gave me another lesson. And then this was really intensely working. And so I actually had I put the easel by my desk. So I'd be work, and then I get up and I paint, and I go back and forth. And I was productive in each. The painting released all this control stuff that I'm dealing with, the intensity, of that, to a more freeness. So I start coming out with pretty remarkable paintings, given that I never felt I could draw or paint as a kid. I was like, I was a little surprised. And then I got a little too serious. Then I started attending workshops, go away maybe on 2 or 3 day working retreat or different lessons. And I'll remember, never forget, I went to Vermont where they had the beautiful colors. And it was a 5-day workshop where you had a different master instructor each day. I got so confused because each one had different principles, different ways of doing it. And I'm trying to do what they do. And I came back frustrated, and I felt whatever I had, I lost it. And I called Paul Eventoff, and after about 6 months of struggling, and I said, Paul, I can't paint anymore. What do I do? And he said, well, I'll share with you. He had graduated from the Maryland Institute of Art, Masters in Art. I'll share with you what the dean said on our date of graduation. He said, now you all just go out and paint and forget everything you learned. And that was great advice. And I just started painting, even in a way, I want to say better, and to this day, that is just, such great advice. Don't get too much into your head, be willing to let go. Don't overthink it. Try to go accept whatever's happening and embrace the failures as well, or the so-called failures. Is not every painting is going to turn out, and most probably don't for me, but some do. And I wish I could tell you what the secret is. I don't know myself, except it is the being in the creative flow and just allowing. And again, the book I talk about, I believe that these things I talk about is the obstacles to the flow, the judging, the expecting, the harsh self-criticisms and self-judgments and, those types of things, lack of humility. They obstruct the creative flow too. And so that's what I also hope that readers will take away, that what I write about and the subjects I write about can apply to so many of their life arenas,
And what I'm hearing too is that if we are controlling, we may kind of go down a pathway of, okay, I'm going to start pursuing art so that I can be less controlling in my work environment. And we suddenly start to become controlling in that art environment.
Yes.
And so it's a matter of learning to let go of control in all aspects of our lives.
Yes.
And try and be as balanced and multidimensional as possible and just go with the flow.
You got it. You got it.
So did I learn what I was supposed to learn from your book?
You're doing it too.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. We'll see. I mean, one thing I really got from the book is that this isn't a fix-all. It's not like you're going to read the book, you say, okay, now I'm just going to ride the waves. I'm not going to be controlling. We have a tendency, if we are controllers, we are going to free ourselves of that control for a while, and then we're going to get sucked into a riptide for a while and, have to kind of find our way out of it. And it just kind of occurred to me, an analogy I've used so much. It's not necessarily riding the waves, but riding the current. A number of years ago, I went whitewater rafting with some friends, and we were instructed before we went out, what to do if you got caught in hydraulic, which is where the water pulls you down. And the idea is just relax and let yourself pop up out of it.
Yes.
And I was actually excited, because we got dumped off in a Class 5 rapid, and we got into hydraulic, and I just relaxed and kind of popped up. The guys I went with, they were all like, they thought their lives flashed before their eyes. And I was that was awesome. I want to do that again. And it kind of caused a rift between us because they thought I was in denial that, I wasn't scared. And it was like, it's just kind of part of life. We're going to get sucked into those things. The key is to just let ourselves ride out of it.
Yes.
And then, then we're ready for the next current, the next wave. And so I think this is a great analogy that can be applied to really any aspect of our life. So I'm going to plug the book here and encourage everybody to go out and get it. I enjoyed it. I do a fair number of author interviews on this podcast, and I don't always, because of time, get to read every page of every book. I read as much as I can, but this is one I read literally every page, read through the entire thing, and really feel like I got something out of it. So time will tell. You might have to check back with me in about 6 months and see if I'm doing better.
Well, thank you for that. It makes me feel really good. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for writing the book and for coming on the podcast today. Is there anything we missed that you need to say to the audience as we sign off?
I think we covered pretty much everything.
All right. Well, keep riding the wave, keep aging well, and keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. If you struggle with control as much as I do, I encourage you to buy the book. A link to Amazon will be provided in the description notes where you can buy The Way of the Wave and support this podcast. I personally struggle with control and probably always will. The problem with needing to control everything is that it negatively affects our relationships. It is especially damaging to the relationships closest to us. Self-control is indeed a spiritual problem. You don't need to be a Christian to see the need for self-control. Like the other fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control is something we need to cultivate. It takes effort. It takes sacrifice. Most often, we need to let go of control to be in control. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of We Have a Spiritual Problem. If you haven't yet, please hit the like button, subscribe or follow on the platform of your choice, and share this with someone you love who can benefit from this message. Thank you, and take care of yourself, and please take care of others.